Leave
You
before I
don't
call the
belong here.
cops. The words slammed across the marble floor, sharp enough to echo off the chandeliers. Guests froze mid-conversation, forks hovering over plates in the grand atrium of the Monarch Lux, Atlanta's most exclusive hotel. At the center of it all stood Aisha Carter, black suit folder in hand, eyes steady, posture unshaken. The woman shouting wore navy and gold trim, every inch the perfect manager until the moment she lost her composure. Her name tag flashed under the light. Victoria Lang, front desk director. Her voice trembled with the kind of authority that depends on someone else believing it. A uniformed security officer stepped between them, unsure which side of history he was standing on. Cameras were already up, phones glinting like tiny witnesses. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now, back to Aisha. Victoria jabbed a finger toward the exit. This property is private. You need to leave now. Aisha didn't move. She shifted the black folder to her other arm, eyes fixed on the woman in front of her. You're certain about that? The officer looked from one to the other. Ma'am, maybe step outside until we sort this. No, Aisha said quietly. You sort it here. Her voice wasn't loud, but the room obeyed it. Conversations died. Even the lobby music seemed to hush. Victoria crossed her arms. I don't care who you think you are. Guests don't walk in through the executive entrance. That's for staff and ownership only. Aisha let a breath out, calm and measured. Ownership. She rolled the word on her tongue like she was tasting something old. Good choice of term. From the side, a young concierge whispered to a colleague. She looks familiar. The colleague whispered back. Don't, just don't. The security officer's radio crackled, breaking the silence. Unit 7, situation in the main lobby. Victoria straightened. See? You brought this on yourself. Aisha tilted her head slightly. You really think they're coming for me? Her phone buzzed once in her pocket. One vibration, silent and deliberate. She slid it out, pressed a single button and spoke softly. Nia, confirm arrival time. A crisp voice on speaker replied. 2 minutes. Board liaison and legal are en route. Victoria blinked. Excuse me? Aisha finally smiled. Not wide, just enough to change the air. I gave you a chance to check your system. She took a slow step closer. Now the system's coming to you. The officer's eyes widened as a notification flashed on his tablet. Property owner confirmed. Aisha Carter. He looked up. Ma'am, she owns this hotel. The hush that followed wasn't silence. It was revelation. Victoria's face drained of color. Aisha closed the folder, voice steady as marble. Next time, try greeting the owner before threatening to arrest her. And just like that, the balance of power shifted. 10 minutes earlier, the lobby hadn't been chaos. It had been polished perfection, gold trim, crystal chandeliers, and a scent that cost more per ounce than some people's rent. Guests moved like choreography. Bellhops gliding, receptionists smiling, cameras ready for the illusion of luxury. That illusion cracked the moment Aisha Carter walked in. She didn't arrive with an entourage, didn't wear the kind of power people expect. Just a cream blazer, black heels, hair pulled back with intention. No one recognized her, not the concierge, not the valet who offered directions to the main entrance she had just stepped through. The first person to notice her was Victoria Lang, the front desk director. She spotted Aisha crossing the marble, holding a black folder, eyes forward. To Victoria, it didn't read owner. It read intruder. Excuse me, ma'am. She'd called from behind the counter, voice wrapped in professional concern but laced with suspicion. This hallway is restricted. Staff only. Aisha paused, polite but unmoved. Is that so? Victoria approached, heels clapping like a warning. Yes, deliveries come through service. Guests check in at the front. Aisha turned calm. I'm not a delivery. And I don't need to check in. Something about the confidence in that answer bothered Victoria. People who didn't belong weren't supposed to sound certain. She squared her shoulders. Then what exactly are you here for? The entire desk staff went still, pretending to type but watching everything. A young concierge, Elena Ruiz, glanced at the reservation screen, froze, then looked up quickly. Her mouth opened, then shut again. Aisha gave a small nod toward the elevator. The top floor. I have business upstairs. That's impossible, Victoria said flatly. Access to the penthouse level is restricted to corporate guests and... Aisha interrupted gently. Owners? Victoria blinked. Yes, exactly. Good, Aisha said. Then I'll see myself up. Victoria's laugh came out brittle. Nice try. She motioned to the security station. Hold her there until I confirm this nonsense. Elena took a step forward. Ms. Lang, maybe check the internal list. I think her name... Stay out of this, Elena! Elena froze, her hands trembling slightly as she minimized the screen that read, VIP owner access Carter. Aisha. And that was the moment, the precise second, the illusion of control began to crumble. Victoria didn't notice. She turned back to Aisha, all clipped tone and brittle smile. We've had people try this before, you know. Fake IDs, fake names. I don't know what scam you're pulling, but it ends here. Aisha looked at her for a long moment. No anger, no defense, just a small knowing exhale. You really should have stopped talking 30 seconds ago. Victoria's jaw tightened. Security! Aisha's phone buzzed once in her pocket. The same signal she'd felt hundreds of times before. Calm, deliberate, unstoppable. She pressed the screen and whispered, Nia, Protocol 1. The response came instantly. Confirmed. Ms. Carter, all internal cameras rolling. Aisha's eyes returned to Victoria's. You wanted proof, she said softly. Now you'll have it. And from that moment, the Monarch Lux stopped being Victoria's stage and started being Aisha Carter's evidence. The man Victoria called down from security wasn't new to confrontation. Ethan Miles, 35, 6'2", ex-military posture, the kind of guy who believed tone could substitute for truth. He walked into the lobby like backup arriving to a fight that hadn't yet started. Problem here? He asked, voice calm but lined with authority. Victoria exhaled, relieved. Yes. This woman's attempting unauthorized entry to the executive level. Claims to be... She hesitated, smirking. The owner. Ethan's eyes drifted to Aisha. No badge, no entourage, no nervousness. Just a calm woman in tailored cream, holding a folder close like it contained something more dangerous than paperwork. Ma'am, he said carefully, I'll need to see identification. Aisha handed over her driver's license and a slim black card. It caught the light like it had its own electricity. He looked at the card, frowned. This looks special. What is it? Corporate access, she answered. You'll find the signature code matches your employee registry. Victoria folded her arms, stepping closer. Don't humor her, Ethan. These scammers print anything these days. Aisha's expression didn't move. You print doubt faster. The officer behind the concierge desk turned slightly, pretending to check the monitor. The lobby had gone unnaturally quiet. Guests weren't pretending to look away anymore. They were watching openly. Phones were angled, flashes waiting to explode. Ethan studied the card again. Ma'am, please wait here while I call this in. Aisha nodded once. Do that. He stepped aside, murmuring into his radio. Verification request. Monarch Lux Master Access. Carter, Aisha. Victoria rolled her eyes, whispering to a clerk. This is getting ridiculous. The clerk whispered back. What if she's right? Victoria turned sharply. She's not. But the conviction didn't stick. Aisha heard every word. You keep saying that, she said, her voice a soft razor. As if saying it louder makes it true. Ethan's radio crackled. Copy running code LV01. Wait, a pause. Then, positive match. She's on the ownership registry. He froze. Say again. Positive match. Carter, Aisha, registered principal. Authorization level Omega. A few guests gasped.
One muttered, You're kidding. Ethan lowered the radio slowly.
The shift was visible. His posture straightened, tone softened. Ms. Carter. Victoria's face drained of color. That can't be right. Aisha tilted her head. It's not only right, it's public record. Ethan cleared his throat. Ma'am, my apologies. Would you like an escort upstairs? Aisha smiled faintly. No, but you might want to stay close. Something tells me your department's about to be very busy. She turned back to Victoria, voice even. You called for security, congratulations. Security just verified me. The silence that followed wasn't peace. It was collapse. Across the marble floor, a bellhop whispered, She really owns this place? Aisha glanced toward the glass doors, where two black SUVs had just pulled up, her board liaison and legal counsel arriving on schedule. She spoke without looking back. The gatekeeper never realizes the gate was mine all along. And as the doors opened, the illusion of hierarchy shattered with the hiss of automatic glass. By the time the elevator doors slid open, the crowd had doubled. Guests leaned over velvet ropes, employees hovered behind counters, and half a dozen phones filmed every breath. The Monarch Lux had never been this alive, or this ugly. Victoria Lang tried to recover control. Her smile looked painted on, her voice pitched too high. "Everyone, please return to your business. This is just a misunderstanding." No one moved. Aisha Carter stood in the center of the marble lobby, back straight, folder closed against her chest like a shield made of composure. The light from the chandelier framed her in gold. To some, she looked defiant. To others, she looked divine. Ethan, the guard, shifted uncomfortably. He had already confirmed her ownership, but Victoria couldn't accept it. Pride never dies quietly. Victoria turned on him. "Why are you still standing there?" "Escort her out until we verify through corporate." Ethan lowered his voice. "We did verify through corporate. You can't just—" she began, but Aisha interrupted, still calm. "Ms. Lang, you're digging." "Excuse me?" "Every word you add is another shovel of dirt," the guests murmured. Someone whispered, she warned her. Victoria flushed crimson. "I don't have to take that tone from a—" She stopped herself, realizing every camera was pointed her way. The pause was worse than the word she almost said. Aisha's eyebrow lifted, the faintest movement. "Finish it." Victoria's jaw trembled. "You're trespassing." Aisha stepped closer, one slow, deliberate pace. "In my own lobby?" The crowd reacted. A low exhale, a ripple of disbelief that felt like thunder building under the marble. Victoria tried again, louder this time, voice breaking under its own echo. "You can't just walk in here dressed like what?" The question sliced through the noise, every lens tilted in, capturing the silence. Elena, the young concierge, finally couldn't take it anymore. "Ms. Lang," she said, voice shaking. "She's in the system as the owner. She's been here before. You gave her a tour when we reopened after renovations." Victoria spun toward her. "Elena, you're out of line." Elena swallowed hard. "Maybe you were." It hit like a bell. The lobby erupted. Murmurs, gasps, the unmistakable buzz of live stream notifications as the clip spread faster than anyone could stop it. Aisha didn't gloat. She didn't need to. She simply reached for her phone, tapped once, and lifted it to her ear. "Nia," she said softly. "Timestamp this moment. Call legal to the lobby." "Already watching," Nia replied. Victoria turned toward the cameras, panic leaking through her mascara. "You can't do this in front of the truth?" Aisha cut in. "That's exactly where this belongs." Ethan exhaled, whispering almost to himself. Public humiliation leveled. Aisha's eyes stayed on Victoria. "You wanted an audience," she said, voice steady, final. "Now you have one." And for the first time, the Monarch Lux's polished lobby felt less like a palace and more like a courtroom. The lobby was still buzzing, muffled gasps, soft murmurs, the faint tremor of someone's phone vibrating on record. The smell of expensive perfume mixed with the sharp scent of adrenaline. Aisha Carter didn't move. She stood perfectly centered in that storm of judgment, her calmness now a mirror for everyone else's panic. Across the marble, Elena Ruiz tried to shrink behind her podium, but it was too late. Every eye that had watched the argument now turned to her. She had spoken, and once truth is spoken aloud, there's no taking it back. Victoria's heels snapped against the floor as she stalked forward. "You want to repeat that, Elena?" Elena swallowed, then lifted her chin. "She's the owner, Ms. Lang. Her name is in our system. She signed my paycheck." The crowd murmured again, different now, heavier, filled with realization. Victoria's voice cracked. "That's confidential information. You're violating policy." "Policy?" Elena shot back. "Or convenience." Phones caught the exchange from 3 angles. Every guest who'd ever been quietly dismissed in a luxury lobby felt the electricity of it. Ethan shifted beside Aisha, lowering his radio. "Do you want me to clear the floor, Ms. Carter?" Aisha shook her head slowly. "No, let them stay. Transparency builds better foundations than marble." That line alone would be replayed 1,000 times before the night was over. Victoria's composure collapsed. "You think you can just walk in here, claim ownership, humiliate me in front of staff?" Aisha turned her gaze to Elena. Who trained you? Elena blinked. You did. 2 years ago, during the diversity initiative, the air changed again. Victoria froze. The crowd started whispering Aisha's name like a confirmation. She's real. She's been here. She built this place. From near the cafe, a man in a gray suit, another guest, stepped forward. I remember her. There was a photo in the lobby before they remodeled. She cut the ribbon, Aisha's voice softened. They took that photo down. Why? Someone else asked. Maybe they wanted the building to look powerful without showing where that power came from. Elena blinked fast. Tears threatening. Miss Carter, I'm sorry. Don't be, Aisha said gently. You saw what others ignored. Victoria clutched the counter for balance. I will not be lectured in my own hotel. It's my hotel, Aisha corrected, the words low, controlled. The sound rolled through the room like a slow thunder. Ethan glanced toward the glass doors. 2 women in tailored suits had just entered, Nia Thompson and Carla Bennett, legal and operations. Their expressions were calm, surgical. Aisha didn't even turn. Nia, she said, still watching Victoria, document the witness statements. Nia's voice was crisp. Recording and archived. For a moment, no one breathed. Even the elevator chime sounded hesitant, too delicate for the weight of what was happening. Aisha finally looked to Elena again. You did the right thing, Elena exhaled. I just told the truth, Aisha nodded. That's usually all it takes to bring a system down. Silence was supposed to calm people. Here it just made the room smaller. Every chandelier shimmered with the tension nobody dared release. Phones were still raised. Guests weren't pretending anymore. They wanted to see how power looked when it woke up. Aisha Carter stood at the epicenter of that silence, one hand resting on the marble counter, the other holding her phone like a key that could open any door. Her reflection in the polished floor looked like another version of her, the one who'd stayed quiet in 100 other lobbies. Not today. Victoria Lang broke first. You think this circus proves something? Her laugh was brittle, dry. Anyone can shout a name, wave a card, call a lawyer. Aisha didn't even glance at her. She unlocked the phone and pressed a single icon. You're right, she said. Anyone can. The difference is, mine answers. The line clicked once, Ms. Carter. Nia's voice was clear, smooth, amplified through the speaker. We're live and time-stamped. Cameras synced to internal security. Do you want the line open? Aisha turned her phone outward so everyone could hear. Keep it open, Victoria stiffened. This is harassment. No, Aisha interrupted, her tone soft but anchored. This is record-keeping. Nia's voice continued, calm as a surgeon. Legal confirms. Ownership protocols verified at 5:14 p.m. I have board counsel standing by. A guest gasped. Another whispered, This is really happening. Aisha's eyes never left Victoria. Ms. Lang, do you recall the Hospitality Code of Conduct? Victoria blinked. Of course I do. Then you'll remember the clause about dignity. Every guest, every interaction. Victoria's lips trembled. I don't need to be educated? Aisha finished for her. Maybe not. Just reminded. She glanced at Ethan, the security officer still standing near the velvet rope. Mr. Miles, can you confirm your internal feed is rolling? He nodded. Yes, ma'am, it's all recording. Aisha spoke softly, the kind of softness that holds steel. Good. Let it record how justice sounds. She looked around the lobby, sweeping every face, every phone lens. For years, I've walked into rooms where I was questioned before I was greeted, where my skin decided my status before my credentials could. The guest stood silent, ashamed or awed, it didn't matter which. She lifted the phone closer to her mouth. Nia, mark this entry as public documentation. Incident 163. Begin internal review of front office conduct. Nia's tone sharpened. Logged, HR notified. Victoria took a half step back. You can't. I already did, Aisha said. You built a wall out of policy. I built a company that can dismantle it in one call. The sentence dropped like glass hitting stone. The elevator doors opened behind her. 2 board members stepped out, flanked by corporate security. Their presence said everything words didn't need to. Ethan lowered his head slightly, whispering, Ma'am, they're here. Aisha's eyes never left Victoria. Perfect. Let them see what I walked into. Then softly into the open phone. Nia, proceed. And just like that, the story shifted, from confrontation to consequence. For a moment, time folded in on itself. The lobby noise faded, replaced by the hum of memory, a sound Aisha Carter had carried for years. She didn't blink as the past flooded back. 17 years earlier, Atlanta. Rain, cheap suitcases, and a younger Aisha standing in front of another hotel desk. Different lobby, same stare. She'd been 23, fresh from grad school working for someone else's dream. She'd saved for months to afford one night in a high-end hotel. Her reservation was valid, her card approved. But when she handed it over, the clerk had frowned. "Sorry, miss, this card doesn't look right." She'd laughed then, small, nervous. "It's mine. Run it again." The man had looked over her shoulder, lowering his voice. "Maybe try a place down the street. More your style," and that had been it. No shouting. No cameras. Just humiliation dressed as politeness. She'd walked out under the awning, rain tracing down her cheeks like punctuation marks. That night she'd promised herself, "One day, I'll own the kind of building that turns people away, and I'll make sure no one else gets turned out of it again." The memory dissolved, replaced by the present's gleaming light. Aisha blinked once, steadying herself. The same rain was falling outside the Monarch Lux now. Different sky, same city. Nia's voice came through the phone again. "Ms. Carter, HR and legal are both online. Do you wish to escalate?" "Not yet," she said quietly. "I'm remembering why this matters." Victoria crossed her arms, trying to mask her trembling. "Oh, please. Save the speech." Aisha turned toward her, eyes like calm lightning. "Do you know what silence costs, Ms. Lang?" Victoria frowned. "Excuse me?" "When I was 23, it cost me a night of dignity. When I was 25, it cost me a promotion because I didn't fit the image. When I was 30, it almost cost me the courage to walk through a door like this one." The lobby was motionless. Even the guest who'd been skeptical felt something shift, something personal. Ethan, the guard, exhaled quietly. "She's been here before," he muttered. Aisha nodded slightly. "I've been here 100 times in every version of this room that told me I didn't belong, and every time I built something bigger." Her voice softened but didn't waver. "This building isn't just concrete. It's my answer." A brief crackle from Nia's end. "Ma'am, legal wants to know if they should begin terminations." Aisha inhaled. The decision carried years of weight. "Not yet. Justice isn't vengeance. Let them understand what they tried to erase." She faced the cameras, the crowd, the glittering disbelief. "People think silence means surrender. But silence is how revolutions start." Then, to Nia again, her tone sharpening, "Prepare the statement draft. Title it Flashback of Silence, when I want it posted to the corporate feed within the hour." "Understood," Nia said. The call ended. Aisha's phone screen dimmed, leaving only her reflection in it. Older now, stronger. Unbreakable. She slipped it back into her blazer pocket, looked toward Victoria and said quietly, "That's what silence built. Now let's see what truth can do." When Aisha lowered her phone, the lobby didn't just watch her. They aligned around her. Something unseen had shifted, the sound of disbelief turning into belief, the quiet rhythm of a crowd realizing which side of history it was standing on. A mother in a red coat near the lounge whispered to her teenage son, "That's her, the owner." A businessman in a navy suit muttered, "If that's true, this woman just made the biggest mistake of her life," nodding toward Victoria Lang, whose face was starting to lose color. The whispers spread like wind through a wheat field. Every phone camera glinted under chandelier light, tiny mirrors reflecting power back to its source. Aisha stood steady, hands clasped loosely in front of her. She didn't need to raise her voice. The silence carried it for her. "Ms. Lang," she said softly, "I gave you an opportunity to correct yourself. Instead, you built an audience." Victoria tried to recover her poise. "This is completely inappropriate. These guests shouldn't be filming." A man near the bar called out, "Then maybe stop giving them something worth filming." Laughter rippled through the room. Small, uneasy, but real. Elena Ruiz, still behind the desk, blinked back tears of relief. For the first time that afternoon, she wasn't afraid to stand up straight. "Ms. Carter," she said, "would you like me to clear the area?" Aisha shook her head. "No, let them stay. The truth doesn't need privacy." The doors of the elevator chimed open again. From inside stepped Carla Bennett, legal counsel. Sharp suit, sharper eyes. She scanned the crowd, then locked eyes with Aisha. "Everything's recorded," she said. "Public feeds are already trending." "Trending?" Victoria echoed, panic rising. "You can't make this public." Carla smiled faintly. "We didn't, your guests did." The murmur grew louder now, an audience becoming a chorus. Someone called out, "She built this hotel to fight exactly this." Another voice followed. "How do you profile your own boss?" Victoria tried to shout over them. "Everyone, please, this isn't—" But her voice cracked under the weight of the truth unraveling her authority. Aisha stepped closer, each heel clicked deliberate, grounding the chaos. "Every hotel has rules," she said. "Clean lobby, perfect smiles, no mistakes. But there's one rule I wrote myself. Never treat dignity as a privilege." That line hit harder than any threat. Phones rose higher. Someone whispered, "That's going on TikTok." Ethan, the security officer, looked at Victoria, then at Aisha, then slowly unclipped his badge. He placed it gently on the counter. "I signed up to protect people, not pride," he said. "You'll have my full report, Ms. Carter." Victoria's lips parted, no words. Just shock. From somewhere in the back, applause began, hesitant at first, then growing. Not loud, not chaotic. A measured rhythm of respect. Aisha didn't bask in it. She simply exhaled, eyes soft but resolute. "Good," she murmured. "Now they see." Carla stepped beside her. "Ms. Carter, would you like to proceed with terminations?" Aisha's gaze stayed on Victoria. "Not yet. Let the room finish watching." Then, almost to herself, she added quietly, "People don't change when you punish them. They change when the world sees why they deserved it." The applause echoed once more. Slow, deliberate, undeniable, and for the first time, the Monarch Lux belonged to its owner again. The applause faded, but the air didn't calm. It thickened, charged with something close to awe. The Monarch Lux had turned into a stage, and every person inside knew the next moment would define the story they'd tell later. I was there when it happened. Aisha Carter stood a few feet from the front desk now, framed by the chandelier above her head. Her calm looked effortless, but it was built on years of scars polished into strategy. Carla Bennett, legal counsel and longtime ally, leaned close. "Board line is open," she said quietly. "They're waiting for your statement." Aisha nodded. "Patch it through the lobby speakers." Carla hesitated. "You want it public?" Aisha's answer was simple. Everything they did was. The next second, the hotel's sound system clicked, swallowing the low music that had been playing in the background. The speakers hummed. A voice from the corporate board came through. "Ms. Carter, is there an incident we need to review?" Aisha lifted her chin slightly, eyes fixed on Victoria Lang. "There's not an incident," she said evenly. "There's a revelation." She took one step forward into the center of the room. "I built the Monarch Lux on a single idea," she began. "That luxury isn't the chandelier. It's how people are treated under it." The words carried through the entire atrium. Even the fountain seemed to pause. But today, my own staff forgot that. She motioned toward Victoria. Calm, not cruel. They looked at me and saw a stranger. They assumed ownership comes dressed a certain way, walks a certain way, looks a certain way. Her tone softened, then sharpened again. "And that's the problem with the world. We confuse presentation for power." Gasps fluttered through the room. Guests nodded, whispering. Aisha turned slightly toward the cameras still filming. "To everyone watching, this isn't about me. It's about how easy it still is to erase someone who doesn't fit your frame of luxury. But let me make something very clear. This face is luxury. This skin built this building. This silence is not submission. It's strategy." The board's voice on the speaker broke in. "Ms. Carter, are you authorizing administrative action?" Aisha glanced toward Carla. "Confirm visual record from 5:04 to current time." "Confirmed," Carla said. "All internal feeds synced." "Then yes," Aisha said. "Initiate immediate review and suspension of staff responsible." Victoria stepped forward, her voice breaking. "Aisha, please, this is all a misunderstanding." "I didn't," Aisha stopped her with a raised hand. "You didn't see me. That's the only part you got right." The crowd murmured again. Not cruelly this time, but with the sound of recognition. "Elena, the young concierge," whispered near the counter. "She's rewriting everything right here." Aisha turned back to the speaker. "File a public statement under my name. Title it, The cost of misjudgment. And make sure it's released before the hour is over. Carla nodded. Already typing, the corporate voice replied, "Understood. Ms. Carter, the board stands with you." Victoria's knees seemed to weaken. She looked around, hoping for a door to disappear through. But every exit led through an audience she had created. Aisha took a final step closer, her voice low but lethal. "You called the owner a trespasser in her own home. Now you're about to learn what that costs." The room didn't cheer this time, it just listened. Power didn't need applause anymore. It had found its voice. The moment Aisha finished her sentence, the sound system hummed again. A single tone, clear, low, final, cut through the lobby like a verdict. Carla Bennett glanced down at her tablet. "They're calling back, Ms. Carter. Legal confirmation from HQ." Aisha nodded once. "Put it through." The entire lobby went silent. Even the phones filming seemed to steady, their holders too mesmerized to blink. A soft voice came through the overhead speakers, calm and firm. "This is Carla from Corporate Operations. All ownership credentials verified. Please stand by for executive directive." Victoria looked around, eyes wild. "You can't be serious. This isn't procedure." Aisha didn't even turn. "It is when the owner rewrites it." The next voice belonged to board chair Marcus Reed. Smooth, resonant, and unmistakably final. "Ms. Carter, we've reviewed your live feed. The footage speaks for itself. Please confirm. Do you wish to execute immediate personnel action?" Aisha inhaled slowly, her reflection shimmering in the marble like a ghost of every moment she'd been dismissed before. She didn't need rage. Precision would do. "Yes," she said. "Effective immediately. Terminate all involved parties' access credentials. Security badges, system logins, financial authorizations. Freeze accounts until review." Her tone didn't rise. It didn't have to. It was the quiet a storm leaves behind when it knows it's already won. The speakers clicked once more. "Understood. Executing now." A hush spread through the lobby. So quiet the soft whir of the air conditioning felt like thunder. Then one by one, the small security badges clipped to the staff uniforms blinked red. Victoria looked down at hers. The light flashed twice, then died. "No," she whispered. "You can't." "I just did," Aisha replied. Ethan's radio crackled again, this time with the sound of confirmation codes. "System lockout confirmed. Access revoked." The crowd wasn't sure whether to clap or hold its breath. This wasn't the kind of justice that needed noise. It was the kind that made noise irrelevant. Victoria stumbled backward, her composure gone. "Aisha, I've worked here for 7 years." "And in those 7 years," Aisha said quietly, "how many people did you make feel like they didn't belong in their own story?" Victoria's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Aisha turned slightly toward the onlookers, her voice now calm, almost tender. "What you just saw isn't revenge. It's correction. The world only changes when accountability is louder than arrogance." She glanced toward Elena, who still stood frozen behind the desk. "Elena," Aisha said softly, "reset the system. You're the acting director until further notice." Elena blinked. "Me?" "Yes," Aisha replied. "You remembered who I was. That's leadership." The crowd broke into quiet applause, measured, respectful, almost reverent. Aisha faced Victoria one last time. "I built this hotel to be a place of welcome. You turned it into a mirror of every room I was once told to leave. That's over now." She turned toward Ethan. "Escort her out, but do it gently. Dignity doesn't vanish just because someone forgot to use it." Victoria's lips trembled. "You won't get away with this." Aisha met her eyes. Unflinching. "I'm not getting away with anything. Ms. Lang, I'm reclaiming what was always mine." The elevator chimed behind her, its doors opening like punctuation at the end of a sentence. And for the first time all day, no one dared speak over her silence. No script could have written what came next. The entire lobby, guests, staff, cameras, stood suspended between disbelief and revelation. The air itself seemed to pause, waiting for permission to move again. The Monarch Lux, usually a temple of curated calm, had turned into a theater where truth performed live. Ethan Miles, the security officer, still stood at attention. But now his stance had changed. The deference was real. The badge on his chest blinked green again. Aisha's override had restored it. "Ms. Carter," he said quietly. "Protocols updated. The system recognizes you as the active command authority. Good, Aisha replied. Then let it recognize justice, too. She took a few steps forward, her heels echoing like heartbeats against marble. Victoria Lang was still rooted near the front desk, pale, trembling, the proud composure long stripped away. Her badge light was dead, a small red symbol of consequence glowing against navy blue fabric. Aisha stopped within arm's length of her. Victoria, she said, her tone even, almost gentle. This is where accountability begins. Victoria's eyes shimmered with disbelief. You're really firing me? In front of everyone? Aisha's reply came slow, deliberate. No, I'm teaching everyone what happens when respect becomes optional. Gasps rippled through the room. No shouting. No dramatics. Just the clean sound of consequence being spoken aloud. Carla Bennett stepped forward from the back, tablet in hand. System confirmed. Access revoked. Employment terminated under Clause 7A. Breach of Code of Conduct. Discrimination and misconduct toward ownership. Her voice was clinical, but her eyes held pride. Aisha nodded once. Read it to the room, Carla did. Every word landed like a bell. Each clause struck something deeper than paperwork. It struck fear in arrogance and hope in silence. When the reading ended, Aisha spoke again. Effective immediately, all terminated staff are required to leave the premises. Security will escort them respectfully. HR will contact you for your exit interviews. Victoria's knees weakened. Please, can we talk privately? Aisha's gaze didn't soften. If you couldn't respect me publicly, why should this moment be hidden? No answer. Just the shuffling sound of a career ending where it started. In the lobby she once ruled. As Victoria turned toward the doors, the guests parted quietly, creating a path that looked both merciful and merciless at once. Every camera caught the same image, the powerful brought low and the humble standing taller than ever. Ethan moved beside Victoria, guiding her toward the exit. His tone was professional, but his eyes carried something closer to regret. This way, ma'am. When the doors opened, a breeze from the rainy Atlanta street swept in. Victoria stepped out into it, swallowed by the sound of the city, a reminder that the world outside didn't stop for injustice. The glass doors shut behind her. Inside, the applause began again. Not wild, not mocking, steady, respectful. It built like a heartbeat until the entire lobby pulsed with it. Aisha waited for it to fade. Then she looked to the camera still recording and said quietly but with every ounce of control, "Justice doesn't need preparation. It just needs timing. And sometimes the right timing is right now." She turned to Carla. "Release the statement." Carla smiled. Already sent. Above them, the hotel's massive chandelier flickered, catching the light from dozens of phones. For a second, the reflections looked like fireworks, tiny bursts of truth celebrating their own survival. In real time, justice had gone viral. For a long breath, no one moved. The Monarch Lux was still, so still that even the fountain seemed to hold its rhythm out of respect. The crisis had ended, but what filled the silence wasn't relief. It was revelation. Aisha Carter stood in the same spot where it had all begun, the center of a circle she had redrawn by hand. The cameras had stopped trembling. They were steady now, reverent. She didn't need to speak, but she did. For them, for the world watching through every lens. "Everyone came here today expecting a hotel," she said, voice calm but resonant. "What you witnessed was a mirror. You saw what power looks like when it stops pretending to be polite." The line hit the room like a quiet thunderclap. Guests nodded. Staff shifted from fear to pride. Somewhere, someone whispered. She turned humiliation into policy. Carla Bennett approached with her tablet, her tone crisp. "Statement is live, Ms. Carter. 70,000 shares in the first minute. The world's watching." Aisha smiled faintly. "Good, let them." She turned toward Elena Ruiz, the young concierge whose courage had cracked the lie wide open. "You'll oversee retraining for the new team. Start tomorrow." Elena's eyes widened. "Tomorrow? After all this?" Aisha's reply came warm, unwavering. "Justice doesn't rest. It rebuilds." Outside the glass doors, rain had turned into sunlight. The wet streets shimmered like gold foil. Aisha stepped closer to the window, her reflection framed against the city she'd once walked through invisible. Now even her silence had a spotlight, Ethan Miles rejoined her side, no longer the guard, but a man who understood what he'd been guarding. "You want me to clear the lobby, Miss Carter?" She shook her head. "No, let them stay. Let them see what dignity looks like after the storm." The crowd watched her in awe, quiet but not afraid anymore. The same people who had once doubted her now saw her for what she'd always been, the architect of every inch around them. Carla's voice interrupted softly. "Press is already calling. CNN, Essence, Forbes." Aisha turned, the faintest smile on her lips. "Then they can wait. I've got something better to say here first." She faced the crowd again, her words slow, deliberate, every syllable a closing statement. "When they locked the door, I built my own. When they questioned my place, I bought the building. And when they tried to silence me, I turned my quiet into a signal loud enough to reach the world." The crowd broke into applause, steady, powerful, rising with each heartbeat. Elena clapped through tears. Ethan joined, then Carla, until the whole room pulsed like one living truth. Aisha raised a hand gently, the applause fading into stillness. Her final words floated across the lobby, soft but indelible. "I don't need to record justice. I am the recording. I am the ending it was waiting for." The chandeliers flickered one last time, catching sunlight through glass. The doors opened wide, letting in the clean air of a city reborn. Aisha Carter walked forward, calm, precise, unstoppable, past the threshold that had once tried to deny her. And with that step, the story didn't end. It began again, on her terms in her house.